All right. Everyone made equal. Okay. Each man the image of every other. Then all are happy, and there are no mountains to make them cower, to judge themselves against. Would you like it if I took all of your points? This is a thought experiment. You do all your work, right? And I take your points and I say, now that you've done all this work, what I'd love to do is take your points and give them to everyone, so everyone has the equal amount of points. Take your points and just sort of spread them to everybody else. And so that at the end, we all kind of hit an equilibrium of everyone working. Now, that could be a good thing if everyone's doing the work, but where would it be sort of a difficult thing or a bad thing?
You put all that time into it and then you just get separated like, oh yeah, I don't care.
Exactly, right? So it starts getting out. So how would you feel if you were the one working hard, but then your points went to somebody who wasn't?
Bad.
Yeah, that would not feel so good. So Beatty here is kind of saying, he's kind of pushing sort of an agenda here, maybe a government system perhaps, of people being made equal, even if other people are brighter or thoughtful. Adler? That's an interesting point that you could have a conversation about, whether welfare is a fair system or communism. It seems to be kind of against that. You can see Bradbury's point of view here is certainly against these ideas, against the 50s. So what are they afraid of in the 50s? The Russia stuff, right? And communism is kind of a big thing. So think about how Bradbury might be influenced by historical themes. This is one of your things in the research you did on Friday. All right, let's continue. And so houses were finally fireproofed completely all over the world. You were correct in your assumption the other night about firemen being needed to put out fires. There was no longer need of firemen for the old purposes. They were given the new job as custodians of our peace of mind, the focus of our understandable and rightful dread of being inferior. Official censors, judges, and executioners. That's you, Montag, and that's me. The door to the parlor opened, and Mildred stood there, looking in at them, looking at Beatty, and then at Montag. Behind her, the walls of the room were flooded with green and yellow and orange fireworks, sizzling and bursting to some music composed almost completely of trap drums, tom-toms, and cymbals. When he talks about music, and it seems kind of weird and silly, I think of what's the strangest music that's out right now? Techno, heavy metal's not. It's been around a long time. I'm thinking like dubstep, right? Dubstep's pretty weird. It's got that weird staccato. I think that's kind of what she's implying. Music that sounds unnatural to the modern listener. Yeah, corny metal. They're old too. Randy. Beatty knocked his pipe. Calm down. Beatty knocked his pipe into the palm of his pink hand, studied the ash as if there was a symbol to be diagnosed, and searched for meaning. Now, you must understand that our civilization is so vast that we can't have our minorities upset and stirred. Ask yourself, Montag, do we want what do we want in this country above all? People want to be happy. Isn't that what we try above all? People want to be happy. Isn't that right? Haven't you heard it all your life? I want to be happy, people say. Well, aren't they? Don't we keep them moving? Don't we give them fun? That's all we live for, isn't it? For pleasure, for titillation. And you must admit our culture provides plenty of these. Yes. Montag could lip read what Mildred was saying in the doorway. He tried not to look at her mouth. By the way, Mildred knows that he has what behind his pillow? A book, so remember that. Because then Beatty might turn and read what was there too. See, colored people don't like Little Black Sambo. Burn it. Do you agree? Little Black Sambo is a book creating sort of a satire of black slaves as being inferior. So burn it. You don't like it? Burn it. But white people don't feel good about Uncle Tom's Cabin, which shows the bad stuff about slavery. It was one of the main impetuses of or literature during the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln talked to Harriet Beecher Stowe, brought her in, and discussed the concepts of the book, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Okay, so white people don't like that? Burn it. Like, it's all the same, right? Slavery, people who don't like it, people who are for or against it, just don't even talk about it. Let's not even talk about Civil War, just don't even think about it. Okay? It didn't happen. Someone's written a book on tobacco and the cancer of the lungs. The cigarette people are weeping, you say? We'll burn that book too. Now, you think that's in the same category? Don't worry about the Civil War, and now don't worry about whether cigarettes cause cancer or not. Okay, how are those different? Forget the Civil War versus, go ahead, you don't need to know anything about the health of a product you're using. How are those things different? If you were to eat something at school or whatever and not realize that it had a certain level of lead in it or poison or something like that, would you want to know about that?
Yes.
And so you can avoid it? But if there was a company who had more money than you who could silence literature on that subject, then all of a sudden you have freedom in it. So you have a company that's sort of lording it over you. So here he's suggesting, look, even the companies, businesses also get the same treatment as people here. The cigarette people are weeping will burn the book. Serenity, Montag. Peace, Montag. Don't worry. Ignorance is bliss, is what he's saying. Take your fight outside, better yet, into the incinerator. See, funerals are unhappy and pagan. Eliminate them, too. 5 minutes after a person is dead, he's on his way to the big flue. Not heaven, but the big flue. Flues and chimneys, right? The incinerator is serviced by helicopters all over the country. 10 minutes after death, a man's a speck of dust. Black. Let's not quibble over individuals with memoriams. Forget them. Burn all. Burn everything. Fire is bright. Fire is clean. There could be a third book for today. Also, because you have a time right tomorrow on fire. And this fire is a different way that it's used. In the past, it was used to burn books. Then it was a fire like a sacrifice. Think about the self-immolation I showed you, that monk burning for Tibet. Fire that shows a message. Fire that shows intimacy or warmth. Now we have a third type of fire, which is what? A cleansing. Another type of cleansing. Not of books, but literally of people. It starts with books and it ends with people, is kind of what he's suggesting. Don't remember people. Okay, forget them. Once they're dead, they're gone. Don't be unhappy. Death makes us unhappy, doesn't it? So why remember people who are dead? Okay, that's some hard stuff right there. Hardening of your mind and heart. But it makes it easier to live. The fireworks died in the parlor behind Mildred. She had stopped talking at the same time. It was a miraculous and strange coincidence. Montag held his breath. There was a girl next door, he said slowly. She's gone now, I think. Dead. I can't even remember her face, but she was different. How? How did she happen? Bayes smiled. Yeah, here or there, it's bound to occur. Clarice McClellan. Yeah, we've got a record on her family. We watched them carefully. Heredity and environment are funny things, Montag. You can't rid yourselves of all the odd ducks in just a few years. The home environment can undo a lot of what you try to do at school. That's why we've lowered the kindergarten age after year. Until now, we're almost snatching them from the cradle. We had some false alarms on the McClellans when they lived in Chicago. Never found a book. By the way, you got your... do you think that teachers know better than your parents how to raise you? Do you think they know more about what's important to learn than your parents do? Maybe. Your parents English teachers though? I don't know. Your parents history teachers? See what he's doing, kind of pitting. It does depend on the parent, but it does pit a little bit. This society says that your parents might not know as much as the teacher, and so the teachers need to get to them earlier. Now, in this case, McClellan has a family of questioners. So that's not the society's at the time. They never found a book in Chicago, and the uncle had a mixed record. He was antisocial, and the girl, she was a time bomb. The family had been feeding her subconscious, I'm sure. From what I saw of her school record, she didn't want to know how a thing was done, but why. That can be embarrassing. You ask why to a lot of questions, and you wind up very unhappy indeed if you keep at it. The poor girl's better off dead. Yes. Dead.
Gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah. You don't need to ask. Just, yeah, you have the pass, you're good. Take 2 minutes. The poor girl's better off dead. Luckily, the strange ones, like her, don't happen often. We know how to nip most of them in the bud. You can't build a house without nails and wood. If you don't want a house built, hide the nails and wood. If you don't want a man unhappy politically, don't give him 2 sides to a question. Give him one. Better yet, give him none. Let him forget there is such a thing as war. If the government is inefficient, top-heavy, and tax-bad, better be all those than that people will worry about it. Peace, Montag. Give the people contests they win by remembering the words to popular songs, or names of state capitals, or how much corn Iowa grew last year. And you can liken this today to, give people sort of Twitter activism, ALS challenges, these kinds of stuff, where you have not real, makes you feel good that you're contributing, but maybe not something that's very substantial in the end. Jeopardy and Name That Tune. Reality shows like we've mentioned before. But absolutely brilliant with information. Stuff them full of facts until they feel smart, even though they don't know why or how or connecting it at all. That's why I don't do multiple choice tests. You'll notice that in a little bit. I avoid this kind of thinking facts. I want you to question. We do the Socratic seminars on purpose. A question. I didn't tell you what the right answer is in that scenario, if you notice. It's about what you think and how you can defend it. Peace, Montag. Give the people context. They'll feel that they're thinking. They'll think a sense of motion with moving, and they'll be happy because facts of that sort don't change. You know what the capital of New York is? Is that what you did? Right? Albany? Good. Let's do it. Good. Does that mean anything to know what the capital of New York is? I don't know. Maybe. It's kind of important, but it's not the answers to questions, right? Or to be able to create questions. Very different type of fact. So instead, any man who can take a TV wall apart and put it back together again, and most men can nowadays, is happier than any man who tries to slide, rule, measure, and equate the universe. See, a mechanic is better than a scientist, is what he's saying. All of you might you might have knowledge of, I know how to put together a car, but could you ever design a car? Maybe you could. But most people aren't going to get that far. Question what it means to even drive a car on the road. What does that look like if we were to change it? Okay. So this is his question. The school all about just trying to get a job, or is there something greater than that? It's hard to tell sometimes. Some just want to get a job. That's perfect. That's great. But he's saying, at large, society sometimes overemphasizes it. I've tried, I've tried it. To hell with it. That is being a scientist. So bring on your clubs and parties, your acrobats and musicians. By the way, this might be your voice, or your friend's voice. Bring on the clubs and parties, your acrobats and magicians, your daredevils, jet cars, motorcycle helicopters, your sex and heroin. More of everything to do with automatic reflex. If the drama is bad, if the film says nothing, if the play is hollow, sting me with the theremin loudly. I'll think I'm responding to the play. And when it's only a tactile reaction to vibration, I don't care. I just like solid entertainment. And I like to be entertained, even if it's just chemical or reaction. David, make sure you're reading. Katie got up. I must be going. Lecture's over. I hope I've clarified things. The important thing for you to remember, Montag, is we're the happiness boys. The Dixie duo. You and I and the others. We stand against the small tide of those who want to make everyone unhappy with conflicting theory and thought. We have the fingers in the dam. Hold steady. Don't let the torrent of melancholy and drear philosophy drown our world. We depend on you. I don't think you realize how important you are, we are, to our happy world as it stands now. Notice how he, at the end there, brings all these ideas. Brings all these ideas, and the responsibility that lies on who? Yeah, on Montag, right? We need you. You can almost see a poster of a fireman pointing outwards towards the audience, a sort of a propaganda. We need you to keep our society happy. What does that look like? that poster of Uncle Sam, right? It's kind of got that similar parallel to it. Definitely an ethos, an emotion, right? So we need you to help us out. Beatty shook Montag's limp hand. Montag still sat as if the house were collapsing about him, and he could not move in the bed. Mildred had vanished from the door. Oh, one last thing, said Beatty. At least once in his career, every fireman gets an itch. What do the books say, he wonders. Oh, to scratch that itch, eh? Well, Montag, take my word for it. I've had to read a few in my time to know what I was about. And the books say nothing. Nothing you can teach or believe. They're about non-existent people, figments of imagination if they're fiction. And if they're non-fiction, it's worse. One professor calling another an idiot. One philosopher screaming down another's gullet. All of them running about, putting out the stars and extinguishing the sun. And you come away lost. Well, then, what if a fireman accidentally, really not intending anything, takes a book home with him? Montag twitched. The open door looked at him with his great vacant eye. Natural error, curiosity alone. We don't get over anxious or mad. We let the fireman keep the book 24 hours. And if he hasn't burned it by then, we simply come burn it for him. Of course, Montag's mouth was dry. Well, Montag, will you take another later shift today? We'll see you tonight, perhaps. I don't know, said Montag. What? Montag shut his eyes. Yeah, I'll be in later, maybe. Beatty, we'd certainly miss you if you didn't show, said Beatty, putting his pipe in his pocket thoughtfully. I'll never come in again, thought Montag. Well, get well and keep well, said Beatty. He turned and went out through the open door. Notice at the end there, after he's told them, we need you, it's your responsibility to help us be the happiness boys. He then turns it around and says, look, if there just happened to be that you had a book, or a fireman had a book, hypothetical, we let them keep it for 24 hours, and if they didn't burn it themselves, then we do something. So he's kind of doing a little reverse psychology. What is he expecting Montag to do on his own, without even being forced? Read a book and then determine what?
If he likes it.
Yeah, and what does he expect? What does Beatty expect will be the answer? Yeah, he's going to burn the book. He's going to realize, I don't understand this. Can you understand books in 24 hours? Maybe, maybe not. So this is his wager. Look, you love our happiness. You're going to throw that all away for 24 hours of the book? Just burn it. He's giving him a reverse psychology. Go ahead and keep it. I'm not going to even get upset with you. Okay. Go ahead and burn your own book. Montag, top of 63 here. Next section. Montag watched through the window as Beatty drove away in his gleaming yellow, flame-colored Beetle with the black char-colored tires. And across the street and down the way, the other houses stood with their flat fronts. What was it Clarice had said one afternoon? No front porches, my uncle says. There used to be front porches. And people sat there sometimes at night, talking when they wanted to talk, rocking and not talking when they didn't want. Sometimes they just sat there and thought about things, turned things over. My uncle says the architects got rid of the front porches because they didn't look well. But my uncle says that was merely rationalizing it. The real reason, hidden underneath, maybe they just didn't want people sitting like that, doing nothing, rocking and talking. That was the wrong kind of social life. People talked too much. People talked too much and they had time to think, so they ran off with the porches and the gardens too. Not many gardens anymore to sit around in and look at the furniture. No rocking chairs anymore. They're too comfortable. Get people up and running around, my uncle says, and my uncle. Her voice faded. We got a 1 minute or 2 minutes or what?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? Can I get down? That's a good place. I don't want to go any farther.
I'm telling you, for the reason that
Bigger? You should have 3 quotes today. Did you get them down? Okay. I believe the first quote was everything before that. It was good old fashioned technology mass exploitation is on top of 58. 61 on that one. It had to do with no one It wasn't the government down, it was people not wanting to fight it, something like that. No dictum, no declaration, no censorship. You start with. We don't know yet. He's going to read that in a little bit. I didn't get it. He doesn't know anything about it. Second quote.
I can't even talk about it.
Fire, burn, fire, thing, 60. Fire is bright, fire is green.
I finished it.
Good.
What is it?
B4.
Yeah.
What's up?
What if it's the Bible?
What do we leave off now?
Throwing ball, and then he throws it to the team.
Turn lights, please.
I had to wait.